Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Syncfusion webinar, How to Create Apps with Syncfusion and Angular 5. My name is Marisa Keller-Outen. I'm the Director of Business Development at Syncfusion and your moderator for today's webinar. Our presenter today is Chad Church, Product Manager. If you have any questions, you can enter them into the questions box on the right side of the screen at any time. We'll answer the questions at the end of the session and also post the entire Q&A on our blog. We are recording this webinar and will share the link in the next few days. All registrants will receive an email with the link. This and previous webinars are available on our YouTube channel. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a bit about Syncfusion. Syncfusion delivers an extensive range of over 800 web, mobile, and desktop controls. We also empower businesses to get the most out of their data with our enterprise solutions, including the dashboard and big data platforms. We've been in business for over 15 years and are headquartered in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina in the U.S. Syncfusion has more than 12,000 customers, including large financial institutions, Fortune 100 companies, and global IT consultancies. More than 900,000 users from 125 countries trust Syncfusion in their development process. Now that you know a little bit about us, I'll hand this over to Chad to get started.
All right. Hey, Marisa, thank you so much for the intro. And everybody, welcome to the webinar. So in today's webinar, I'm going to talk about our JS2 controls and how you can use them in an Angular 5 application. So Syncfusion has been around for a long time. 2001 was when we started. And we've had our JavaScript controls for a number of years, 4 or 5 years. And they're great controls. They've been well received. There's a lot of cool features. We get a lot of positive reinforcement about them. We also get a lot of feature requests. And we did that as we went through our controls. We were looking to do the next generation. And we chose TypeScript. So to do this, we took all of the good things and all of the requests, and we sat down and made a list of requirements, and we made those the targets. So our TypeScript controls are built from scratch, entirely in TypeScript. So there's no external dependencies. You know, jQuery is so 2000s. We're into TypeScript now. There's no dependency on that. Well, really all that stuff is not needed anymore with the modern browsers. Everything's in TypeScript. And in TypeScript compiles directly down into JavaScript anyway. So it just makes it gives you a nice easy interface, a nice editor for your JavaScript controls. So we built these things entirely in TypeScript, and we have integrated them with a number of frameworks: Angular, React, JavaScript. We have more coming later. Vue is coming, and Aurelia is coming, but that's all here. So Angular JS2, let me show you. We actually created a cool little sample for this webinar. So let me step in that real quick before I talk too much more about it. This is it. This is our expense tracker. And this link up top, this is a public link, so anybody can go here. And the link will live wherever you're watching this video from. If you're watching it live, then we will send you a link later. If you're watching it as a video, somewhere in the neighborhood, somewhere else on the screen, you'll see the link to the expense tracker here. This is the application. And what it does is this. It's just a cool little, it's not very deep, but it does a lot of fun stuff with it. The main part over here is this menu bar. You can get different looks and feels to it. A couple cards across the top. There's a pie chart, 2 other charts, and a grid. And what I'm going to do in today's webinar is actually start from a brand new project and show you how to implement a grid, a chart, and a donut actually into a brand new application. Now this particular app, once you take a look at this, we have the ability here to let you select a range. If you want to do that, you can come in and look at your grid control. This is a grid, a little more featured. You can create a selection, and then behind the scenes there's a collection of what's been selected. You can filter with a checkbox. You can filter by picking a category. You can check the date range. All that's available in this. You can even add new transactions. This is an expense tracker. You could use this yourself. And then the About page here just tells you what the controls that are actually used in this application. And you can download the source. And before I talk about the source, let's go back and look at this. because this is Angular TypeScript EJ2, it's going to be mobile friendly. So as you, it's going to be responsive and mobile friendly. So as you change the screen size, it's going to shrink, it's going to flow until eventually you're looking at it on a device. And here it's shrunk and flowed. It has shrunk and it flowed. The menu bar shows it this way. So this is all available to you here. And again, the sample can be downloaded from our About page. Download a source, give this a play. It's a fun little application. Okay, now Angular 2, we took our TypeScript controls, we built them out specifically into the Angular 2 environment. So there's some cool support we have, some modules, some components we have into it, and we support the latest and greatest, the coolest Angular functionalities, ahead of time compilation, tree shaking. And tree shaking is very cool. It actually will let you go through your module and just pull out the code bits that are actually going to be used based upon selections that were previously made. So you don't bring down this huge module, you just bring down the portions of it that are actually going to be used by the application on the client. This is how you get Angular CLI installed, and that's what I'm using today. And since we're here, let's go ahead and step over and get this going. So we have a folder that I'm using for this. And this is my folder. So this is the expense tracker app. And actually, let's go ahead and open this up and step in this for a second. Expense tracker. So this is the app that you'll actually download. And here it is. Here's our components. The way that's set up, we have your app, expense tracker. The source code is here. This is all the code. Here's your About page, your comment, your dashboard, your expenses, your menu. This is what that menu bit on the left. This is what drove the app. These are the modules that we're importing to it. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about these. And again, here's so you can see just kind of how this is set up. This is the actual TypeScript. Again, what we're looking at here actually compiles to JavaScript. And you get the actual code on the page. And here's your link. So this is the HTML that you'll see. All right. Now what I'm going to do is actually create a brand new app. Let's go into here and we're going to do ng new, and we'll call it sample 1. I don't like capitals. Call it sample 1. So while this is compiling, let's go back and talk about Angular CLI. This is how you use it. We're going to start a new project. We have that cooking in the background. Now, the JavaScript packages. Our packages are available via NPM. NPM just will reach out into the cloud and grab a little bit of fluff that is Syncfusion, bring it down, instantiate that into a folder directory, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. This sample is showing the button, and I'm not actually going to use the button today, but this is how you might use it. This is the app module. I'll show you that more in just a little bit, but here's the imports into NG, and then the imports into the browser. And then you add the component like this, so button, EJ button, and it shows up. We will need to do a CS reference. And I'll show you that when the time comes, how to make that reference, and we'll talk a little bit about styles. But let's go back now and see if we're done. And we are. Fantastic. So let's change our folder into what we're actually working with today. And we can run this. So ng serve. This will fire it up. And what it does, this little app that starts up here, it is just going to sit there. It's just going to sit and spin on top of that folder. That's all it's going to do. And whenever you save a change, then it'll spin again, it'll recompile it, and it'll make it something that the browser can step into and look at. And let's pull this up in a browser. And I've been there before, so I know where it is. It's on my local host, 4200. And here it is. This is the app that was just created. And just let you see it here, the folder structure for it. This is my sample 1. Okay, and I'm going to open this with TypeScript. So let's go ahead and open that now, with code, I'm sorry. VS Code, this is the sample. Here we go. I'm going to close this. And the source modules E2E. So this looks exactly, and this is just really looking at this folder. So here, the same idea. It's all set in this way. And if I want to make a change to this, and let's make a quick change because this is kind of boring. Here we go. Let's come in here. Let's change this. There we go. Get rid of these links. Okay, hello my webinar friends. And if I save this, then it started spinning and it changed and it works. I always like it when the applications work. So there we go. We have the first app is up and running. This is our Hello World app, actually. I probably should have said that. But it's up and running and it works. It's beautiful. I'm going to leave the shield in here because I kind of like that. It makes me feel like a superhero. It's kind of fun. So there's Hello Webinar Friends, and we're golden. But this is kind of boring, right? You're not going to do much. This is not the kind of app that you'll ever make in real life. So let's come in, let's add our controls to it. So here's the app module. Now to add our controls, again, I need to go to NPM. So let's change this. And this is in webinar. I'm in sample 1. And I'm going to NPM install our controls. So at Syncfusion J2. Now at this point, I'm going to add the charts. You could do this way, and this will give you just the TypeScript controls. And that may be all you want and all you need. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to get the Angular components from EJ2. That's how I'm going to find that here. So this is going to, again, NPM is going to reach out into the cloud and grab our little particular bits of fluff. And let's come back and let's add, why don't we actually build charts? There we go. So let's get this going. Then I'm going to come back, I'm going to add our grid controls, and we're going to see exactly what they install onto your device and into your application, and what you want to use with that. What you can step in and look at different things. So let's add our grids as well. Okay. And while this one is spinning, I'm going to step into our folders here. And if you look in the node modules, that's where our controls were installed. You're going to see Syncfusion. So this is what just got installed. And here is our NG charts. The NG grids are coming. Yeah, they're still spinning. Now the NG grids are here. So if you notice, the grids actually added a bit more things to it. So the grids and the charts are our biggest controls. They have the most fingers into other controls of anything we have. They need buttons, they need calendars, they need all that cool stuff. And you can, again, you can use this. This is a TypeScript implementation of our control. You can step in and use it this way. I'm going to use the Angular version. This is what got installed. Changelog tells you all the changes that we're going through with it. Here is the source. Here is the accumulation chart and the chart. These are two different charts. There's a little bit of logic behind the accumulation chart that's separate from the regular chart. But here's all the bits. Here's the module, the all module. That's all in here. All right, so let's go back, and we're complete. So now we can add our controls to it. So we need to go into the app module, and I'm going to import. And if I just do it here, then nothing's going to come up. Very simple. This is just your basic Angular stuff that's going to show up here. So the IntelliSense is not full yet. But I'm going to show you how it's going to read. Syncfusion, J2. Okay. So I have NG charts. Now, once I do that, it's going to reach out with IntelliSense. It's going to tell me that there's a ton of things, ton of objects, ton of interfaces, objects, services that I can pull up and I can install at this point. Okay. I'm going to install the chart all module. A couple of reasons for that. The chart module. Now, the chart module, if I want to install this is the difference between the chart and the all module. Let's actually take a look at that. So the chart all and then the chart module. The differences are the size of the control. The chart module by itself is just a container. It's just a box, and it knows what a chart is, and it knows what a chart should do. But again, it's just the container. So if you put a chart module, then it's incumbent upon you, or you have to, fill that container with whatever bits and pieces of charts you want to use. So if you need a line series, if you want to draw a line in the chart, then you're going to need the line series. You're going to need the line series service in order to get a line actually drawn inside that chart. And the same thing if it's a column, or if it's you want a particular type of axes, you're going to have to do all that. For getting all set up and all working, I'm going to suggest you always start with the bigger control. Get your proof of concept done, then go back and start picking out, trim it down, include the pieces, and make it as small as possible just for what you actually need. Because in the world today, we need everything to be as small and fast as we can go. That's just kind of where the world is going, where all our development is going. And TypeScript is a great way to do it. Modularizing your controls are exactly correct for doing that. Now we have the charts. This is a regular chart, but we need a pie chart or a donut chart. So I need a accumulation chart. Accumulation chart, and I want the all module. Okay, chart all module. Now I also want to go ahead and add our grids controls here. So it's grids, and because the grids doesn't know anything about a chart, it's going to know about grids. So we're going to pick the grid all module. So now we have our controls added to the application. Let's add them into the ng. Let's add the ng modules. So the chart all module, the accumulation chart, all module, and the grid all module. Perfect. We have them all added. Okay, now let's do, we'll save everything, and let's watch this spin a little bit, and then repack the application, rebuild it so all these modules are being brought into the app. It's put together, and let's watch and make sure it works. And good, I haven't broken it yet. That's always fantastic. So at this point, you can actually put stuff on the screen. So here, let's put in a chart, EJ-chart. So a chart shows up. This is because it's the all module. So the all module has the concept of grid lines, grid lines, axes. It's all put together. So we have a little chart shows up. It's a nice, pretty, it's a blank chart. It's kind of pointless at this point, but at least we have it showing up. So we know that it works. And let's get rid of that. Now, you're not going to put all of your code in the app. This would just be silly. You're going to add additional components, additional modules. So let's take a look at that. So we're in sample 1. Let's go ng. I'm going to generate a new component, and I'm going to call this a chart. And it created my chart component. And if you look over here real time, you can actually see that a chart was added. So let's add a new ng. I'm going to generate a component, and it's cool. You can actually, with the command line, just use the first letter of your command. I'm going to call this a pie. Now I'm doing one more time. I'm going to generate a component, and this is going to be my grid. And there we go. We have our 3 little components added. All right. And so if you look at each of these, we have the style sheets, the HTML, this, and the TypeScript file. They're all available to you here. And just to show you that they all actually work, here's how you add them. App-chart, app-pie, and then app-grid. Okay, so we have everything saved. And let's see if it works. And look at that. They all work. And it's cool that Angular actually tells you that they work, which is this is a very friendly little phrase. And I like friendly things from developing. It's far too often developing is not very friendly. Okay, so we have the controls here added. Now, let's actually do something with our chart control, for example. So we have our chart component, and I'm going to add it here, ej-chart. And let me come back down here and let's add its back end. Okay. So then we have the chart. The chart works, and there's a chart. But that's, again, it's kind of boring. So let's start doing some things with it. Let's, for example, give it a title. And the title can equal, this is my hello world, so let's let it equal that. All right. Save it. We gave it a title. Great. Now, and that's cool and all, but now let's actually make this a property. So now the title is a property, and this is going to tell Angular to look back into the JavaScript around it for a object called title. So I'm telling it that title is a property, and I'm going to look for title, and I'm going to put the title in here. So here, let's add a new title. It is a string. Now, I can define the string here, or I can leave it, and I can define it, and I can add it to it here. So this title TLE equals and there we go. So it works. So this is how you'll actually reach out and make your charts or your controls look at properties, look at values. Now, that was enough of my typing. We can all see that my skills are lacking in typing. So let's come back, and I want to go through the tried and true. I'm going to show you my other skills, my tried and true skills of copy paste. So my skills on the Control-C, Control-V keyboard are astounding. And look at that. Here it is. This chart is, I've given this an ID value just because that's proper. Everything should have an ID. I've created a primary access that is a property. So in my code, in my TypeScript, I need to put a primary access object or it's going to fail. And I've added a series. So the series is actually what you're going to draw on the chart. In this case, it's going to be a column, and it's binding to something called chart data. So let's come into our chart, and let's get this populated here so we can see this working. And here we go. So now we have a primary access defined. It's an object. The value type is category. And that's because the data doesn't actually have numerics. It has strings for my categories. Now, technically behind the scenes within the chart, we're assigning numeric values to all these because you have to. At some point in coding, everything's a number pretty much. And especially if you want it to show in a logical length, a logical string. But that's the idea behind it. And we have a thing. So let's save this. And let's see if we get a column chart showing up. Beautiful. Now, if you'll probably want to add additional series to it. So let's add another one here. Let's make him be a line. So we have a line. And I'm going to give him a different name. Bob is cool, but I'm going to stick with the B theme today. I'm going to call this one Barbara. So now we have two strings, two series. This one's going to be a line. And if I save this, I get 2 on my chart. And that's exactly how you would do that. That's exactly how easy it is to get a chart up and working. Now let's go talk about the pie. And to do that, I got to come in here and let's change this. Okay. All right, that should work. And the pie works. Okay. So let's come into a pie chart. And the pie chart starts with an accumulation chart. An accumulation chart, actually to render on the screen, it needs to start with a data source. You can't just give you a default blank empty grid like that because it's a pie, it doesn't make sense. There's an accumulation chart, and again, I have the same title, and it's an accumulation series and not a regular series. Data source is data. We have the start angle. Start angle, you imagine there's a compass in front of you. You're holding a little compass. You're out in the woods doing whatever. You have a little compass. North is 0 and 360, and then the left is 270, and the right is 90. So I have this set up. I'm going to have it set up to do that way. And the really cool thing about the chart is it will explode. And if you grew up as a boy, you know that exploding toys are the best toys. So we have it here, it's exploding. I have a data label. Data label is a little word that's going to show up on each donut slice. And let's come in here. I'm going to close this and this. I don't need you anymore. Now let's come into our Pi TypeScript control bits. And let me go ahead and get that here to put it in. Okay, so there we go. So data object, string, data label, this is what's going to show up on top of the slice. And with the start angle, here we are starting at 270 and going to 90, so it's only going to be a half of a donut. Title string, I'm not defining a title. So there's not going to be one. Nothing's showing up as a title. I've not actually created it, but I didn't populate it. So there we go. And explode, it explodes like this, and that's cool. Now, if I wanted to, I could come back and add a tooltip. As a matter of fact, here in my paste, I have a tooltip object. Tooltip object is enabled, I have it enabled, and I'm just putting up some X and Y values. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward. But let's go in and see how the tooltip shows up. And I'm going to copy this because I need to. So here we go. Let's give this a tooltip, and tooltip is going to be a property. And it's going to equal the tooltip. And if I save it, we now have a tooltip showing up over each of my slices. Beautiful, that's fantastic. Okay, so that's how you do a accumulation chart. If I want to change my start angle, I can do that. Let it be whatever angle you want to start it at. Okay. Now let's move on and let's do the grid control. And the grid still works. Now the grid control is going to be similar to the others, similar to the pie chart, in that you still have to create a data, and I'm actually going to type this in. Bear with me, everybody. Grid, and I'm going to give this a data source. It's going to be equal to data. And that's all I'm going to do. So a very simple grid with some very simple data source. And then I do need to get in here into the TypeScript and actually define that there is some data source with some kind of data in it. Let's do that. So here is my data. So here's my data for my grid. Let's see it show up. Okay, so let's come back. Okay. All right. So I'm going to actually come in and do the whole thing. Because once you have a grid, you're going to want to let it filter and everything. So here's a grid. So we have filter enabled, but the grid doesn't look like much. It's kind of silly. For this, we need to get the style sheets involved. And if you take a look in here, these are style sheets. They live under the Syncfusion components, and we'll step into the NJ grids. And here is our styles. Now, Bootstrap, Fabric, and Material come by default. We would like to support Bootstrap, each of these out of the box, just a straight up CSS from those places. But Bootstrap I've actually looked at, and the way the Bootstrap style sheets are set up, they don't quite mesh with the way our controls are built. And we just did not want to actually rebuild our controls to make them Bootstrap controls. So we created themes that will mimic or match those particular style sheets. We want to claim that they're pixel perfect representations of those styles, but I'm not going to make that claim because somebody's going to come along and say these 4 pixels aren't right. But I'm going to say that we do our best. We did a great job. We're doing our best to make these style sheets match and have the same look and feel as the material design, the fabric, the bootstrap. And if you want to give this to a designer and let them step in here and make whatever changes, they are welcome to do so. This is all in here. Each of these, they can always step into the CSS and look at it and make whatever changes you wish to make. It's all available here for you. Now that being said, let's go back and let's add this into our styles for the application. So here is the CSS for the entire app. You could, if you wanted to, come in and actually type out and put in whatever styles you wanted specific to the grid. Or you can come in and you can use our style sheets, which are already built and they're golden, and go with it that way. So here is the style, and let's add it here. So we have this. Now if we save this and recompile, it's going to give us a grid that looks decent. Okay, so we have the ability. Now if I wanted to filter, 248, it filters. Okay, but let's go in and let's actually give this a little more interesting filter, and let's give you the drop down. Everybody likes Excel, and everybody wants Excel type filter. Now we don't yet have the full Excel filtering, but we do give you the ability to let filtering be on a checkbox. So you can also come in, and we get on the little the Wi-Fi emblem actually. So if you click on Wi-Fi, then you get the ability to actually pick the bits you want, and you can filter, and it works just like that. So that is how to get some very simple things set up and working in an Angular 5 application, and I am using Angular CLI in this app. From here on out, it's going to be up to you to make this as complex as you wish, as you need. There's a ton of things you can do with it. Our support team is ready to help you along the way to get you up and running. Now, let's talk about the actual controls that I used. I used accumulation chart. I used the regular chart control, which had 16 types. So I could have done a bar chart, bubble chart, a scattered plot. I could use a ton of things like that. We do support zooming, crosshairs, trackballs, all that's available to you. The grid control has been around for a long time with us. We support a ton of functionality. We have some basic functionalities that if it doesn't do this, we don't call it a grid. So you have all this available to you with our grid control just to use. Now, what's coming up in the next versions of our JavaScript 2 libraries? A couple of things. In January, we're going to give you a custom resource generator. So you noticed when we did that npm install, there were a ton of files coming down. We're going to let you change that. So you only get down the actual bits you need. So it's a little bit smaller. Now we do support tree shaking, but yet the application is still has all this stuff to be big. We're going to let you put this into an MVC application and work with it at the code behind level, at the server, for core and MVC. So you have a server-side wrapper that you can use to instantiate our controls. We currently have a theme studio for our JavaScript 1s, our JS1 controls, and we're going to re-implement that against our TypeScript controls, our JS2. New components that are coming. So eventually, our JS2 is going to supersede or replace our JS1. Now, JS1 will be around, and we plan on supporting it for 6 years. 2025, 2026 is our kind of what we're thinking, that we may actually deprecate that suite of controls, but that's going to depend upon user feedback. If everybody's still using it, then we will keep going with it. But by the end of next year, we expect our JS2 to be at feature parity with our JS1 controls. So there won't be a feature in JS1 that you cannot do in JS2. So we want to, you don't have to use JS1 for some particular piece of functionality. A couple things that we're adding. An important thing here is the document editor. We already have a spreadsheet for JS1, which is your Excel type editor. So you have a ribbon control on the top. You can have multiple sheets. You can do cross sheet functions, formulas. You can do all the conditional formatting. You can do all that. in our spreadsheet control. We're going to give you that type of editing functionality in our document editor. So think Microsoft Online or Google Docs, that kind of thing is going to be our document editor. It's a JavaScript control that's going to let you do that. Okay. We're going to have a theme, high contrast themes coming out. A couple of things. We do need our grid control, our chart control. Our controls can export to an Excel file. They're actually using our C# assemblies. We have Excel, Word, Excel Doc, and PDF are all C# assemblies. They live in a server. They can run in some kind of service if you want them to. They have been ported to ASP.NET Core, so you can run them in a Core application. But if you want to export to that, you have to send the data to the server, at least the details to the server, and then you can generate the file there and then drop it back to the client. And that's good, but people don't want to do that anymore. So we are actually building the ability to client-side exports of these file formats. So there at the client, you can make the Excel file. That's a cool thing. Again, we're going to support Vue and Aurelia out of the box to go from there, so you can look at that live. Vue.js will have something similar to what we did for Angular. I'm not sure how it's going to look. Couple things, our Gantt control is coming out later this year. So again, by the end of the year, we plan on being at parity with JS1. So anything in our JS1 library, you should see in our EJ2 library without any issues. And that concludes my portion of the webinar. So Marisa, I'm going to give it back to you.
Great, thanks Chad, I appreciate that. Just give me 1 second while I make myself presenter. Okay. Okay, can everyone see it? Okay, I think so. Great. Well, before moving on to questions, I'd like to also mention our Community License Edition. For smaller companies with revenues under $1 million US, all Syncfusion products are available for free. That includes all of our controls in the Essential Studio, as well as our enterprise solutions. We have plenty of customers who have built up their businesses starting with our community license. For those of you who do not qualify for the community license, let me introduce you to our global flat license. We offer 4 tiers of pricing tied to the size of your organization, starting at $3,995. Our global flat license eliminates compliance and licensing headaches by making sure everyone who needs a license has one, including third parties and contractors. As your team grows, you can focus on your projects instead of worrying about headcount. There are no surprise fees with a global license, so you can focus on your projects. If you would like more information, please visit us at syncfusion.com. I think it's time for us to go ahead and wrap this up. We appreciate all of your time today. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your interest. And Chad, thanks again for presenting. And please, attendees, please watch your email inboxes for a link to the recording of this presentation. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you next time.